ladies and gentlemen, being alone is not a sign of weakness. It's not an absence of connection, nor is it something to be feared or avoided. Being alone is not a curse. It's a gift. It's a unique power, a strength, and an opportunity for transformation if you dare to understand and accept it and embrace it. Too many people fear solitude because they think it means being incomplete. They think being alone signifies a failure, that somehow their worth is diminished because they are without the presence of others. But in reality, the opposite is true. To be alone is to stand fully in your own power. When we are alone, we are forced to confront the deepest parts of ourselves, those parts that we might try to avoid when surrounded by others. In the noise of the world and the rush of society, we often lose touch with who we truly must. The voices of others, the expectations, the distractions, all of these things can dilute our sense of self. But in solitude, we can reclaim what is ours. We can rediscover the truth of who we are and what we are capable of. Being alone is a call to self-awareness. It is the moment when you have nothing and no one else to rely on, and you must tap into your own inner resources. This is where true strength lies not in the approval or validation of others, but in your ability to navigate life with only your own sense of purpose and your own sense of direction. This is where your personal power is forged in the quiet moments when you are left to face yourself and nothing else. When you are alone, you are free from the expectations of others. There's no one telling you who to be, what to do, or how to think. You are free to explore your own ideas, your own passions, your own dreams. You can create your own world, live on your own terms. There's no need to conform, no need to fit into someone else's mold. You are free to be yourself, to fully explore your identity, the vastness of your own potential. But with this freedom comes responsibility. When you are alone, you are accountable to yourself. The decisions you make, the paths you choose, they are all yours. There's no one else to blame, no one else to point to when things go wrong. This is what makes being alone such a powerful experience. It forces you to take full risk. You must be honest with yourself, look at your own limitations, your own weaknesses, and learn to transform them. You cannot escape from yourself when you are alone. There is no hiding. And this is the ultimate form of empowerment. In the stillness of solitude, you will find your voice. The more you listen, the more you hear. You will hear the quiet whispers of your intuition, the quiet stirring of your inner wisdom. In the constant noise of the world, these whispers are drowned out, but in the silence, they become clear. You will find clarity in your thoughts, precision in your decisions, and direction in your life. When you are alone, you are given the space to hear your own truth. You are given the space to develop a deep and intimate connection with yourself. Being alone is not just about physical isolation. It's about emotional independence as well. You must learn to stand strong in your own emotional power. You must be able to navigate your own feelings without relying on others to balance. You must find the courage to sit with your emotions, to process them, and to understand them. This is where emotional resilience is built not in avoiding your emotions, but in embracing them. When you are alone, you learn that you are enough. You don't need to look outside of yourself for fulfillment. You can create your own happiness, your own peace, your own sense of worth. Solitude also offers a space for deep reflection and growth. In this space, you can examine your past, understand your mistakes, learn from them, and move forward with greater wisdom. You can reflect on your successes, celebrate them, and feel pride in your achievements. Being alone allows you to shed the distractions of life and focus purely on your own development. It's the time to nurture your soul, to heal, and to grow into the person you were always meant to be. It is in this space that we find our greatest potential. When we stop looking to others for answers, we begin to realize that the answers we seek are already within us. All the strength, wisdom, courage you need to create the life you desire are found in the quiet moments, in the moments when you are alone with yourself. The The power to change, to grow, to achieve is within you, waiting to be unlocked. Being alone is also a place of creativity. When you are alone, there are no distractions, no obligations to meet, no one to impress. It is in this space that you can tap into your fullest creative potential. You can create without judgment, without fear, without the need for approval. You can be unapologetically yourself. This is where art, innovation, and invention come to life when we give ourselves permission to be alone with our ideas, to let them grow and evolve without external pressures. And yet, being alone is not about salvation. It is not about closing yourself off from the world. It's about creating a strong foundation within yourself so that when you do engage with the world, you do so from a place of strength, clarity, and authenticity. It is about being whole within yourself so that you can offer your best to the world. When you are grounded in your own power, you are no longer dependent on the external to define who you are. You can get free because you have bursting up to yourself. It is in the moments of solitude that we will learn how to truly connect with ourselves, not out of need, but out of desire. When you are fully comfortable with yourself, when you understand your own value, your own worth, you no longer seek validation from others. Instead, you are able to engage with others from a place of love and mutual respect. You are able to build relationships that are not based on dependency, but on genuine connection. This is the true power of solitude. It prepares you to engage with the world from a place of strength. In solitude, we also confront our fears. It is easy to distract ourselves from our fears when we are surrounded by others, when we are busy with external concerns. But when we are alone, we are left with our own thoughts, our own anxieties, the fear that we must never face the things that stare us. And in facing them, we gain courage. We learn that we are stronger than our fears, that we have the power to overcome them. This is the transformation that happens in solitude. It turns our weaknesses into strengths, our fears into fuel, our doubts into confidence. It is also in being alone that we find peace. The world can be chaotic, noisy, and overwhelming. But in the stillness of solitude, we can find a deep sense of calm. It is here in the quiet that we connect with the essence of who we are. It is here that we can hear our own heartbeat and our own breath and remember that we are alive. Being alone allows us to center ourselves, to find balance, and to reconnect with the simplicity and beauty of life. Many people fear being alone because maybe it means they are abandoned or they will be lonely. But loneliness is not the absence of others, it is the absence of self-connection. You can't feel lonely when you are truly connected to yourself. Being alone is not about being isolated from the world, that's being deeply present with yourself, developing an unshakable sense of self-worth and self-love. When you are comfortable in your own company, you are never truly alone. The power of being alone is transformative. It is a power that can change your life, your relationships, and your world. It is the power to stand in your own truth, to trust in your own wisdom, and to embrace your own greatness. Being alone is not a punishment.
So do not fear solitude, do not fear the quiet, embrace it. It is in these moments that you will discover the greatest power of all, the power of being alone. And in that power you will find the strength to create the life you desire, to overcome any obstacle, and to achieve your highest purpose. Being alone is often misunderstood. In a world that constantly tells us to seek connection and never be isolated, solitude is viewed as something to be avoided, a weakness, or a sign of failure. However, solitude is far from a negative condition. It is an incredible opportunity to discover and strengthen who you truly are. When you are alone, you are not simply left without the presence of others. You are gifted with the space to truly confront yourself and explore the depths of your inner world. In the stillness of solitude, you can build the foundation of your true strength. Being alone forces you to stand on your own. Without the distractions of others, you are left to face your own thoughts. your own fears, your own doubts, and your own desires. There is no longer the external noise, the opinions of others, or the constant need to please those around you. It's just you and your own mind, your own heart. This can be both a challenging and liberating experience. When you are surrounded by the opinions and expectations of others, it's easy to lose sight of who you really are. The voices of society, family, and friends often drown out your own inner voice. You begin to live for others, shaped by their perspectives of you rather than by your own truth. But when you are alone, there is no one else to define you. There are no external pressures to influence your decisions. You are stripped down to your barest form, and in this raw state, you begin to reconnect with your true self. You have the chance to examine your life, to reflect on your values, your beliefs, and your desires without the influence of anyone else. In solitude, you reclaim your autonomy and your identity. It is in these moments of aloneness that you can engage in deep self-reflection. You can ask yourself the difficult questions that you might avoid when surrounded by others. Who am I really? What do I truly want out of life? What are my fears and weaknesses, and how can I overcome them? What does happiness mean to me, and how do I want to experience it? These are questions that demand honesty, and they require you to dig deep into your own soul to find answers. Being alone is a chance to heal. Many of us carry emotional wounds, past traumas, or unhealed pain that we have buried deep within. We often avoid confronting these emotions because we fear what we might find. But when we are alone, we are forced to face our past, our mistakes, and the things that hurt us. Solitude provides the space to reflect on these wounds, to grieve, to forgive, and ultimately to heal. It is in this alone time that we can process our emotions, understand them, and begin to let go of the burdens that we have been carrying. In solitude, we are given the opportunity to move forward stronger and more resilient than before. Through solitude, we can begin to understand ourselves on a deeper level. We are all too often busy with the external demands of life, work, relationships, obligations, and in the process, we neglect our internal world. We don't give ourselves the time to truly listen to our own needs, to check in with our emotions, or to assess our life's direction. When we are alone, we create the space to be still and to listen to the whispers of our soul. In this stillness, we gain clarity and insight that we cannot access when we are caught up in the rush of the outside world. Being alone also forces us to develop a sense of emotional independence. It's easy to rely on others for validation, approval, or emotional support. But when we are alone, we have to learn to provide those things for ourselves. We must find the strength within to navigate our emotions and experiences without leaning on others for constant reassurance. This emotional self-sufficiency is one of the greatest gifts that solitude can offer. When you are comfortable with your own emotions, when you have learned how to manage them and support yourself through challenging times, you become invincible. You no longer need to depend on others to feel whole. Moreover, solitude is an incredible teacher. It teaches you how to face discomfort and uncertainty. When we are alone, there are moments when we will feel discomfort, loneliness, fear, boredom, sadness. These feelings are natural and human, and they are part of the experience of being alone. However, it is in these moments of discomfort that we learn the most about ourselves. We learn how to sit with these feelings, how to tolerate them, and how to transform them. Instead of running from discomfort, we learn how to embrace it and use it as a catalyst for growth. The more we allow ourselves to be in these uncomfortable spaces, the more we develop emotional resilience. We stop fearing negative emotions and instead begin to understand that they are part of the process of personal growth. In solitude, you also learn how to take responsibility for your own life. When you are alone, there is no one to blame for your circumstances. There are no distractions or external influences to point to. You have to face your own decisions, your own actions, and your own choices. This is not to say that you are alone in the sense of being abandoned or unsupported by the world, but that you are the ultimate authority in your life. You are the one who makes the choices, the one who takes the actions, and the one who reaps the consequences. Solitude forces you to take full ownership of your life. It teaches you that the power to change, to grow, and to create the life you desire lies within you. Being alone also allows you to recognize the depth of your own potential. When you are surrounded by others, it is easy to compare yourself to them and measure your worth against theirs. You may look at others and think they are stronger, smarter, more capable, but when you are alone, there is no one to compare yourself to. You begin to recognize your own unique strengths, talents, and qualities. In solitude, you stop measuring your worth by someone else's standards and start measuring it by your own. You begin to see your potential without the influence of others, and this recognition is liberating. The power of being alone lies in its ability to help you reconnect with yourself, heal your emotional wounds, and gain clarity on your life's direction. It allows you to develop emotional independence, learn responsibility, and recognize your potential. It is an opportunity for self-discovery and self-empowerment. Being alone is not a punishment or something to be feared. It is a gift that allows you to find the deepest strength within yourself. When you embrace solitude, you open yourself up to a profound and transformative journey toward personal growth, healing, and self-realization. Solitude is often perceived as a condition that strips away the external comforts and distractions that society so heavily promotes, leaving us to face the rawness of ourselves. While many view this isolation as a state of deprivation, it is in fact a powerful experience that comes with a deep sense of freedom and responsibility. When you are alone, you are free from the influences of others, their expectations, judgments, and opinions. This freedom is not just about the absence of others, it's about the space it creates for you to live authentically, unburdened by the weight of external pressures. It is in this freedom that we can truly find ourselves free to make decisions based solely on what resonates with our deepest truths rather than being swayed by others' perspectives. However, freedom does not come without its responsibilities. When we are alone, we are solely accountable for our choices, our actions, and the consequences they bring. In a world where we are often accustomed to sharing responsibility with others or relying on the guidance of friends, family, or mentors, solitude forces us to take full ownership of our lives. There is no one else to turn to, no one else to blame when things go wrong. The decisions we make when we are alone are ours and ours alone. In this sense, solitude becomes a training ground for personal responsibility. It teaches us that we cannot wait for others to solve our problems, nor can we depend on others to pick up the slack when we fail to act. Every step we take in solitude is a reflection of our commitment to ourselves. This is the paradox of being alone. It gives you both the freedom to act independently and the responsibility to face the consequences of those actions. While many fear the weight of this responsibility, it is precisely what empowers us. The ability to make decisions without the interference of others allows us to live authentically and align our actions with our true values. In solitude, you learn to trust your own instincts and judgments. You learn to navigate your own path, free from the influence of the crowd or societal expectations. One of the key aspects of being alone is the opportunity to rediscover who you truly are. In the constant bustle of life, it is easy to lose sight of your own desires, goals, and values. Society places countless expectations on individuals, shaping us into versions of ourselves that conform to its ideals. These pressures, whether from family, friends, or social media, often cloud our judgment and make it difficult to hear our own voice. But in solitude, you are given the rare chance to peel away these layers and reconnect with your core self. You can ask the hard questions: who am I beyond the roles I play for others? What do I want for myself? Not based on what is expected of me, but based on my own dreams and ambition. What values are truly important to me? These questions, often overshadowed by the noise of everyday life, are given the time and space to emerge when we are alone. The responsibility of solitude, however, is not only about making decisions for ourselves, but also about accepting the reality of those decisions. In solitude, we cannot hide from the outcomes of our actions. There are no excuses, no one else to shift the blame to when things don't go as planned. This is a crucial part of personal growth. When you take full responsibility for your choices, you are forced to face both the successes and the failures head on. This forces you to learn and adapt. It builds resilience, for you understand that the path to success is not always smooth and that mistakes are not the end but opportunities for growth. When you are alone, you are given the space to fail and learn without external judgment, which is a rare and precious gift in a world that often prioritizes perfection and immediate success. Furthermore, responsibility in solitude leads to empowerment. When we are alone, we are responsible for creating the life we desire. No one else is going to make our dreams a reality for us. This realization can be both daunting and exhilarating. It can be overwhelming to think that the entire course of our lives is in our hands, but it also reminds us that we have control over our future. Solitude encourages us to be active participants in our lives rather than passive observers waiting for someone else to take the lead. We are the architects of our own destiny. It is in these moments of independence that we realize the vast potential within ourselves to shape our lives according to our own design. In solitude, we must also confront our own limitations. Without the distractions of other people's expectations, we are left with the truth of who we are, flaws and all. The responsibility of solitude involves confronting our weaknesses, our insecurities, and our doubts, and finding the courage to face them. We cannot escape from our shortcomings when we are alone, but this confrontation with ourselves offers a chance to grow stronger. It is easy to mask our fears and uncertainties when we are constantly surrounded by others, but in solitude, we must reckon with them directly. This can be uncomfortable, but it is through this discomfort that we grow. We begin to understand our limitations, and more importantly, we begin to work on overcoming them. Taking responsibility for ourselves in solitude also means learning to nurture our own well-being. When we are alone, we are forced to become self-sufficient, not just in our decisions, but in our emotional health. There are no other people to rely on for comfort, support, or validation. It is in these moments that we must learn to comfort ourselves, to give ourselves the care and attention that we need. We develop the skills to support our own emotional needs without the dependence on others. This kind of self-care is not about avoiding vulnerability or shutting ourselves off from the world, but about creating a solid foundation within ourselves so that we can engage with the world from a place of strength. While solitude provides the space to take responsibility for our lives, it also allows us to take responsibility for our personal growth. When we are alone, we are free to explore our passions, hobbies, and interests without fear of judgment. We are free to develop our skills and talents in ways that are meaningful to us, not based on societal expectations or the desires of others. This freedom to pursue our own growth is a powerful aspect of being alone. It encourages us to take ownership of our journey, to define success on our own terms, and to continually evolve. Moreover, solitude can offer the opportunity for deeper reflection on the ways we interact with others. It allows us to assess our relationships and the role that others play in our lives. Are we seeking relationships to fill a void, or are we building connections based on mutual respect, love, and authenticity? In solitude, we are given the time and space to consider these questions and make intentional choices about how we engage with the world. This self-reflection ultimately enables us to engage with others in a more meaningful and empowered way, as we are no longer looking to them to define our sense of worth or happiness. The responsibility of being alone is not a burden, but a transformative gift. It encourages us to take full ownership of our lives, to trust ourselves, to confront our weaknesses, and to shape our future according to our own desires. This responsibility is not something to fear. It is the key to personal empowerment. The more we take responsibility for our own lives, the more we realize the vast potential we have to create the reality we desire. When we embrace the freedom of solitude, we also embrace the responsibility that comes with it. And through that responsibility, we unlock the greatest power we have, the power to live authentically and with purpose. When we are alone, we enter a space that is free from the noise and distractions of the external world. It is in the space of solitude that we are offered an extraordinary opportunity for creativity to flow. Far too often, we find ourselves caught up in the chaos of everyday life, busy with work, relationships, and the myriad demands placed on us by society. These distractions drown out the quiet whisper of our inner voice and prevent us from connecting with the source of our most innovative and imaginative thoughts. However, solitude offers the ideal environment for creativity to thrive. It provides the mental space and the stillness required to tap into the vast pool of ideas and inspiration that reside within us all. When we are alone, we are free from judgment, free from the need to impress others, and free from the pressures of comparison. This freedom allows us to create without the weight of expectation. Creativity flourishes when we are not concerned with the opinions of others, when we can explore new ideas, experiment with different possibilities, and fail without fear of failure. Being alone gives us the ability to think without restriction, to question without the fear of being wrong, and to imagine without boundaries. This is a rare and precious space where we are able to access the fullest extent of our creative potential. In solitude, we are given the chance to listen to ourselves in a way that is impossible when we are surrounded by others. It is in these quiet moments that our thoughts are allowed to surface without being drowned out by the noise of the outside world. When we are constantly engaging with others, our attention is split, and we are rarely fully present with our own thoughts. But when we are alone, we can let our minds wander freely. This is where many of the most groundbreaking ideas are born, in moments of daydreaming, reflection, and pure, uninterrupted thought. The act of creating is often hindered by the pressures of performance, the need to meet deadlines, and the constant input of others. When we are surrounded by the opinions and feedback of others, our creative processes can be clouded by the desire for approval or validation. We begin to second-guess our ideas, adjusting them to fit others' expectations, even if it means compromising our original vision. But when we are alone, we have the space to nurture our ideas without the interference of others. There is no one to judge us, no one to tell us that our ideas are not good enough, and no one to force us to conform to external standards. We are free to create purely for the sake of creation, to let our imagination run wild and unrestricted. Furthermore, solitude provides the perfect environment for deep focus. In the absence of distractions, our minds can home in on a single idea, allowing us to dive deep into it and explore it in ways that would not be possible when we are constantly interrupted. In the company of others, we are often required to multitask, to split our attention across multiple projects, and to juggle various responsibilities. This constant switching between tasks can prevent us from fully immersing ourselves in any one pursuit. But in solitude, we can dedicate ourselves entirely to our creative process. We can give our full attention to the task at hand, undisturbed and undistracted. This deep concentration is essential for producing work of the highest quality, as it allows us to engage with our ideas in a meaningful way without the hindrance of external interference. Solitude also provides us with the time needed to develop our creative ideas. Creativity is not always an instantaneous process. It often requires time to evolve, to change, and to refine. When we are alone, we are granted the luxury of time to think, to experiment, to revise, and to iterate. In our fast-paced world, we are often rushed and pressured to produce results quickly, to meet deadlines, and to deliver immediate outcomes. This urgency can stifle creativity, as we are forced to abandon the messy, iterative process that is necessary for true innovation. In solitude, there is no pressure to hurry. We can take the time we need to develop our ideas fully, to experiment without fear of failure, and to allow our creativity to unfold naturally without the constraints of time. Additionally, being alone allows us to engage in self-reflection, which is essential for the creative process. When we are surrounded by others, we are often too busy trying to keep up with the external demands placed on us to reflect on our own thoughts and emotions. Yet creativity is deeply tied to our inner world, our experiences, our emotions, our desires, and our personal journeys. Solitude offers the space for us to reflect on our lives, to explore our innermost thoughts, and to understand our motivations. It is through this introspection that we gain insights and inspiration that fuel our creativity. The more we understand ourselves, the more we are able to channel our emotions and experiences into our creative work. Whether we are writing, painting, designing, or solving problems, our unique perspective is what drives our creativity. Solitude allows us to explore this perspective fully without the noise and distractions that often drown it out. Creativity is also about finding new connections between seemingly unrelated ideas. When we are alone, we can allow our minds to wander freely and make connections that might not occur to us in a more structured environment. Solitude fosters the ability to think divergently, to see patterns in relationships where others might not. In the quiet of our own thoughts, we are able to synthesize ideas, draw upon our memories and experiences, and combine disparate concepts to create something entirely new. This ability to think outside the box, to innovate, and to create novel solutions is one of the most powerful outcomes of solitude. Moreover, being alone provides us with the opportunity to tap into our deepest desires and passions. Often, the pressures of society and the influence of others cause us to suppress our true creative impulses. We may dismiss our ideas as impractical, unrealistic, or unworthy of pursuit. But when we are alone, we are free to indulge in our passions without fear of judgment. We can explore what truly excites us, what ignites our imagination, and what we feel most compelled to create. This is where true innovation occurs, not when we are trying to please others or meet external expectations, but when we are fully aligned with our inner desires and creative impulses. The process of creating in solitude also allows us to embrace failure as part of the creative journey. When we are alone, we can experiment freely, making mistakes and learning from them without the fear of failure being amplified by others' criticism. In solitude, we are given the space to fail without judgment, to try again without pressure, and to learn from every misstep. This freedom to fail is essential for creative growth. It is through our failures that we learn, improve, and refine our work. Being alone gives us the courage to take risks, to challenge ourselves, and to push the boundaries of our creativity. In this way, solitude becomes not just a time for reflection, but a time for profound creative evolution. It offers us the mental clarity, the focus, and the emotional freedom to connect with our innermost ideas and desires. It provides us with the time and space to experiment, to reflect, and to push the limits of what we believe is possible. When we are alone, we are not bound by the constraints of the external world. We are free to create on our own terms, without fear, without judgment, and without limitation. It is in this state of creative freedom that the most innovative and groundbreaking ideas are born. Solitude is not just the absence of others, it is a fertile ground for creativity to flourish. Being alone often brings with it an opportunity for introspection, a chance to understand not only ourselves but also how we interact with the world around us. Many people see solitude as an isolating experience, a withdrawal from the world and the people in it, but in reality, being alone can actually lead to deeper connections with others and a more profound sense of peace within ourselves. The key to understanding this paradox lies in recognizing that solitude is not about shutting the world out, but about first understanding ourselves. so that we can engage with others more fully and authentically. When we spend time alone, we are afforded the rare chance to become more self-aware. In the absence of external influences, we can reflect on our feelings, actions, and the patterns that shape our lives. This introspection leads to greater emotional resilience because it allows us to confront our vulnerabilities, anxieties, and fears in a controlled, supportive environment. When we are truly comfortable with who we are in solitude, we develop an emotional strength that doesn't rely on others' validation or approval. We no longer feel the need to seek constant reassurance, and this emotional self-sufficiency enables us to enter our relationships with a sense of balance and security. The more we know ourselves, the more we can connect with others from a place of authenticity. So often we enter relationships out of a desire to fill a void within us, whether that is loneliness, insecurity, or a need for external validation. These relationships, while they may offer comfort or companionship, can become imbalanced when we depend on others to give us something that we are not providing ourselves. But when we spend time alone, we learn to fill that void ourselves, cultivating our own sense of self-worth and fulfillment. We begin to realize that we don't need to rely on others for our happiness or sense of completeness. Instead, we can approach our relationships with an open heart, seeking connections not from a place of neediness, but from a place of mutual respect and shared growth. This internal peace and emotional independence that comes from being alone allows us to form deeper and more meaningful connections with others. We are no longer dependent on others for validation or emotional support, which means that our relationships are built on a stronger foundation of mutual understanding and respect. We are able to engage with others more fully, not as a means of filling a gap within ourselves, but as a way of sharing and growing together. We approach each interaction with a sense of peace and acceptance, rather than looking for something outside of ourselves to fix what we feel is missing. Being comfortable with solitude also helps us embrace vulnerability in our relationships. When we are at peace with ourselves and have the emotional resilience that comes from being alone, we no longer fear opening up to others. We are no longer afraid to show our true selves because we no longer depend on others to define our worth. We can express ourselves authentically, share our thoughts and feelings without fear of judgment, and create connections that are genuine and grounded in mutual respect. This vulnerability, which might once have seemed like a weakness, becomes a source of strength. It allows us to build trust with others, to connect on a deeper level, and to create relationships that are grounded in openness and emotional intimacy. Moreover, being alone can offer a deep sense of peace. In a world that is constantly busy and distracted, moments of solitude provide the space to simply be. In solitude, we can detach from the constant pressures of modern life, from the demands of work, relationships, and the constant need to be on. We can take a step back, breathe deeply, and reflect on what truly matters. This quiet time allows us to cultivate mindfulness, to be present in the moment without worrying about the past or the future. It is in this stillness that we often find a sense of calm and clarity that is not available in the rush of everyday life. Peace, however, is not just about quieting the internal world. It is about quieting the internal noise as well. Being alone provides an opportunity to disconnect from the constant stream of thoughts, worries, and anxieties that often occupy our minds. In solitude, we can learn to sit with our thoughts without judgment, to observe them without getting caught up in them. This practice of mindfulness, of being present with ourselves and our thoughts, can be deeply transformative. Over time, we learn to detach from the constant chatter in our minds and find stillness within. This stillness is not emptiness, but rather a profound sense of peace and presence that allows us to engage more fully with the world around us. Furthermore, being alone allows us to step back from the constant pressure of societal expectations and define our own values and priorities. We live in a world where we are constantly told how we should behave, what we should value, and who we should be. These external pressures can lead us to question our own beliefs and desires as we try to fit into a mold that doesn't align with our true selves. But in solitude, we have the opportunity to reflect on what truly matters to us. We can examine our values, our goals, and our desires and determine what kind of life we want to live. This self-reflection allows us to make conscious, deliberate choices that align with our true selves, rather than simply following the path that others have set for us. It is in this space of peace and self-awareness that we begin to find true contentment. When we are no longer seeking validation from others or trying to meet external expectations, we can cultivate a sense of fulfillment that comes from within. We learn that happiness is not something that can be found outside of ourselves, but rather something that comes from living in alignment with our true values and desires. This inner peace is not dependent on the circumstances of our lives, but rather on our ability to be present with ourselves and to accept ourselves fully as we are. In the quiet of solitude, we are able to connect with the world in a way that is more meaningful and intentional. We stop living on autopilot, reacting to the demands of life without considering what we truly want. Instead, we make conscious choices that reflect our values and priorities. We engage in relationships, work, and activities that bring us joy and fulfillment, rather than those that are driven by external pressures or societal expectations. This sense of inner peace allows us to move through the world with a sense of calm and assurance, knowing that we are living true to ourselves. Ultimately, being alone enables us to find a deeper sense of peace within ourselves, a peace that is not dependent on external circumstances or the approval of others. It teaches us to be comfortable with who we are, to embrace our vulnerabilities, and to connect with others from a place of authenticity and emotional resilience. This inner peace becomes a foundation upon which we can build stronger, more meaningful relationships, and it empowers us to navigate the world with greater clarity, purpose, and contentment. Through solitude, we learn that peace is not something we need to search for outside of ourselves, but something that we can cultivate within. And from this place of peace, we can engage with the world and the people in it in a deeper, more connected way. In the stillness of solitude, there exists an inherent power, one that enables personal transformation. It is through solitude that we are granted the opportunity to disconnect from the external world and reconnect with our true essence, stripping away the distractions and false narratives that often cloud our judgment. This connection to our authentic self is not merely a luxury, but a necessary step in our journey toward personal evolution and growth. When we allow ourselves to be alone, we open the door to the process of self-discovery, where we can peel back the layers of self-doubt, fear, and conditioning that have been imposed upon us throughout our lives. At the heart of personal transformation is the willingness to confront ourselves honestly. Solitude provides the environment in which we can examine our thoughts, behaviors, and emotional responses without the interference of others. In the hustle of daily life, we are often too busy to reflect on our actions or the reasons behind our choices. We get caught up in routines, responsibilities, and relationships, leaving little space for introspection. However, when we are alone, we have the time and the mental clarity to engage in deep self-reflection, to ask ourselves difficult questions about our values, goals, and desires. In doing so, we are able to break free from the patterns that have held us back and begin to chart a new course for our lives. Solitude allows us to uncover the truths that lie buried beneath the surface of our everyday thoughts. It is in this quiet, undisturbed space that we can fully hear our own voice, the one that has often been drowned out by the noise of the world. When we are constantly surrounded by others, we may subconsciously begin to adopt their opinions, judgments, and expectations, losing touch with our own inner wisdom. Being alone provides the opportunity to tune into our authentic self, to discern what truly resonates with us and what doesn't. This process of self-discovery is liberating, as it allows us to identify and release the beliefs and behaviors that no longer serve us and to embrace the aspects of ourselves that are aligned with our true essence. The power of solitude also lies in its ability to reveal our deepest desires and aspirations. In a society that often pushes us to conform to prescribed paths, it can be difficult to know what we genuinely want. We may find ourselves chasing goals that have been set by others or living up to ideals that are not truly ours. Solitude, however, creates the mental space to explore our own desires, to dream freely, and to pursue what feels right for us without the pressure to meet external expectations. In these moments of introspection, we can connect with our true passions and gain clarity about the direction we wish to take in life. Once we have discovered our authentic desires, solitude offers the time and space to begin the process of transformation. Change does not happen overnight, nor does it occur in the presence of constant distractions. To truly transform, we must be willing to do the internal work, to confront the fears and limiting beliefs that have held us in place, and to rewire our thoughts and habits. Solitude provides the ideal environment for this kind of work. When we are alone, we are free to dig deep into our psyche, to face the aspects of ourselves that we may have been avoiding, and to rebuild our mental and emotional frameworks from the ground up. This can be an uncomfortable process, as it often involves confronting the parts of ourselves that we have hidden or suppressed. However, it is through this discomfort that true transformation occurs, as we release old patterns and make room for new growth. Transformation is not only about understanding our desires and confronting our limitations, it is also about taking responsibility for our lives. Solitude teaches us that we are the creators of our own experiences. When we are alone, we are forced to acknowledge that the choices we make, the actions we take, and the paths we choose are all reflections of our inner state. There is no one else to blame for our circumstances and no one else to rescue us from the consequences of our decisions. This realization can be both empowering and daunting, but it is essential for personal growth. When we take full responsibility for our lives, we empower ourselves to make changes, to take risks, and to create the life we desire. We no longer wait for external validation or permission to move forward. Instead, we take ownership of our journey and trust in our ability to navigate it. In solitude, we also gain a deeper understanding of our emotions. Often we are taught to suppress our feelings or to avoid discomfort, but being alone allows us to embrace our emotions in their full range. We can feel anger, sadness, joy, and fear without the fear of judgment or misunderstanding. Solitude gives us the opportunity to explore the root causes of our emotions, to understand why we feel the way we do, and to process these feelings in a healthy way. This emotional awareness is crucial for personal transformation, as it enables us to manage our emotions rather than be controlled by them. When we are in touch with our emotions, we are better equipped to navigate challenges and make decisions that are aligned with our true values. Moreover, the time spent alone fosters self-discipline. Transformation requires consistent effort, and solitude allows us to cultivate the discipline necessary to stay committed to our goals. In the absence of distractions and external pressures, we are able to develop focus, prioritize what matters, and push ourselves to take the necessary steps toward personal growth. The habits we form in solitude, whether it is the discipline of daily meditation, journaling, exercising, or working toward a creative project, become the foundation of our transformation. Over time, these habits accumulate and lead to profound changes in our lives as we consistently reinforce the new mindset, behaviors, and beliefs we are cultivating. Solitude also provides an opportunity for healing. Often we carry emotional wounds from our past, pain from relationships, trauma, or unfulfilled dreams that continue to shape our behavior and mindset. These wounds may be buried beneath the surface, hidden from conscious awareness, but they affect how we show up in the world. In solitude, we can confront these wounds and begin the process of healing. This healing is not always easy, as it requires us to sit with discomfort and face painful truths, but it is a necessary part of personal transformation. As we heal from past hurts, we become freer to live in the present, to release the emotional baggage that has held us back, and to embrace a future filled with possibility. Through solitude, we are also given the space to align our actions with our core values. It is easy to become distracted by external pressures or to chase goals that do not truly resonate with us, but in the quiet of solitude, we can reconnect with what is truly important. We can examine our priorities, set boundaries, and make choices that reflect our deepest beliefs. This alignment between our inner values and outward actions is essential for creating a life that feels authentic and fulfilling. It is through this alignment that we begin to experience true transformation, one that is grounded in our own truth rather than in the expectations or desires of others. The transformation that occurs in solitude is not just an intellectual or emotional shift. It is also a spiritual one. Solitude creates the conditions for us to connect with something greater than ourselves, whether that is through meditation, prayer, or simply through a deep sense of connectedness with the world around us. In these moments of stillness, we are able to tap into a sense of purpose, to feel guided by something beyond our own limited understanding, and to experience a deeper sense of meaning in our lives. This spiritual connection is not about conforming to a particular belief system, but about finding our own unique sense of purpose and direction in the world. In solitude, we are given the space to transform in ways that would not be possible in the presence of constant distractions and external demands. It is in this space that we reconnect with our true selves, confront our limitations, embrace our emotions, and take full responsibility for our lives. Through solitude, we become the architects of our own transformation, paving the way for a future that is grounded in authenticity, self-awareness, and emotional resilience.